Fast.
Happy Hour is presented by Sky Vodka. Please drink responsibly.
Pardon the interruption, but I'm Pablo Torre, and I am here for my second straight Friday, so you must really like me, Tony.
I'm Tony Kornheiser. That, or no one else was available.
Well, yeah. I didn't like that.
No, but
it's a lot less nice for me.
No, I'm really happy you're here.
Thank you.
No, I like doing the show with you because you're really smart and you tend to talk a lot. And Mike sits there for a while and then starts screaming, and I never know where that's coming
It's very jarring for a man who wants to nap.
Never understand that at my age. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. Wilbon has the day off in Chicago. If you see him, give him a hug. He loves that. And so I am joined by the brainchild himself, Pablo Torre. And we begin today with a report by Don Van Natta and Seth Wickersham about the origin of the Jerry Jones-Roger Goodell feud. The ESPN writers trace it back to a phone call in August in which Goodell informed Jones that Ezekiel Elliott would indeed be suspended for 6 games. Jones had believed Goodell had indicated to him he would not suspend Elliott. Jones was incensed and reportedly said to Goodell, quote, "If you think Bob Kraft came after you hard, Bob Kraft is a," and I interrupt this to say Jones used a word here that I can't. I continue the quote, "compared to what I'm going to do," unquote.
Well,
Pablo, does this particular story make Jerry Jones look small?
I think it does, Tony, because we've heard Jerry Jones talk about some of the biggest issues about power and protest and accountability, but this makes him look less like a political crusader and more like the most vengeful member of a homeowners association. Like, this is something that seems deeply personal to him, and it's less about principle, and I get it. The Ezekiel Elliott thing was a mess. The chief investigator was not interviewed at key moments. I get that. Bob Kraft putting pressure on Roger Goodell. I get his personal vendetta here, but let's be clear. It is personal and rooted in Ezekiel Elliott.
It's hard for me to understand this because every time stories like this come up, you see the highlight reel in which Roger Goodell and Jerry Jones are hugging. They're smiling at each other. They're on the field and they're hugging. That's very far away now. I would just say that it seems immensely personal, which pleases me enormously.
I'm not surprised.
What we have now it's like 2 warships, and they're out at sea, and they're firing their cannons as loudly and as destructively as possible. And they're aimed at the other guy very specifically. And I do like watching this. The NFL is taking dead aim at Jerry Jones. This is obviously leaked by a friend of Roger Goodell. The letter that the AP got a hold of was obviously leaked by people in the NFL office, which said that Jerry Jones is conducting himself with conduct unbecoming the league, which is the first step to making that long move to get rid of a guy. I think we should just sit back and enjoy this. Get the popcorn that T.O. talked about and enjoy it.
You know what I enjoyed the most in terms of that popcorn was the fact that in this story they report that someone close to the NFL owners group called up Adam Silver and asked, hey, do you want to do this job? And he immediately said no.
Yeah, he says no right away. Jerry Jones says in this piece that he believes that Roger Goodell said to him, we're not going to suspend him. There's just going to be counseling.
Right.
And you know what, Pablo? You hear what you want to hear.
You do.
You hear what you want.
But I just don't know how Goodell could do that much of a better job when it comes to the issues that truly plague the league. Health, is he going to solve the health crisis? Is that what they want from him?
I think that Jerry Jones is stunned because he's an important guy and it never happened to him before.
And he's supposed to get what he wants.
Yeah.
But on to controversy now of a different kind, because the streaking Celtics beat the Warriors 92-88 last night, their 14th straight win. Golden State blew a 17-point lead and groused afterward about the refs, who sent the Celtics to the line 38 times and the Warriors only 19 times. So, Tony, are the Warriors right to be irate?
So let me understand something. There is a game in Boston, and late in the game, Boston gets some hometown calls. A game in Boston in which Boston's guys go to the line twice as much as the other guys.
I'm shocked.
That's called the NBA on any weeknight. That's the way that works. What they ought to have beef with the Warriors is the fact that Steph Curry and Klay Thompson shot 8 for 32, because they normally shoot 16 for 32, and that's your ball game right there.
Well, I think that's fair, but I think the bigger issue, even beyond just Curry and Thompson, is the fact that the Warriors have this death lineup. It is Curry and Thompson and Durant and Iguodala and Green. And the Celtics last night did to the death lineup what I never thought possible. They held them to 11% shooting, the lowest ever with Kevin Durant on that lineup. They were outscored by 13, the most ever. This is the best piece of a resume
for the Celtics. You see something greater than just a game in this.
I just don't think any team can roll up and do that to this lineup, which is, again, the greatest in NBA history. We have to recognize that Brad Stevens' defense is absolutely legitimate.
So what do you make of when after the game, Steph Curry, who knows exactly what he's saying, said, well, I guess I'll enjoy the weather in June, in Boston. Because I say that's a direct shot at LeBron, hoping LeBron comes back at him. Because to me, there are these two objects, almost celestial, that float above the league. And one is Cleveland and one is
orbiting
Golden State.
each other.
And they're aiming at each other with every single thing they say. I don't yet really believe that Golden State really believes in Boston.
Well, I don't think anyone can beat a LeBron James that is motivated and passionate about making the playoffs and making the finals. That's kind of how this works. But I would say that this Celtics team is the greatest obstacle to LeBron to get to 8th straight finals. I just do.
They're
that good. They have
November.
It's November, yes.
Chris Paul, who had been sidelined since the first game of the season, returned to the Houston Rockets last night. Paul played 21 minutes. He scored 11 points. He had 10 assists as the Rockets thumped the Suns, but that's not the story of the game. The story of the game isn't even James Harden's 48 points, none of which came from assists from Paul. The story of the game is that Houston had 90 points in the first half. 90. Pablo, big deal, little deal, no deal.
So I'm kind of numb to 90, and you can give me some historical context, I assume, on what that really means, because to me the story is the James Harden thing. We don't really talk about how incredible he is. He's leading the NBA.
Has a team gotten 90 points in one half? I mean, it's hard to get 90
that's
if there's no opposition. If you're just playing 5-on-0, it's hard to get 90. Now, the story of that team, and you can talk all you want about Harden, and I believe in that stuff. Can Harden and Paul play together? Because they're point guards who need the ball. Now, who's the best coach for that in the world?
Mike D'Antoni.
Mike D'Antoni is a point guard coach. But I'm still not sure. If they go a whole game and they don't have any assists to one another, can I interpret that as saying there's some standoffishness between them or no?
Well, right now, Mike D'Antoni is relishing the fact that he could put a Hall of Fame point guard, and I'd call Harden and Paul both Hall of Fame point guards, on the floor one at a time and save legs. Because remember, end of last season.
So you're playing for May and June.
And Mike D'Antoni has to do that because this guy, Mike D'Antoni, can set every offensive record known to man with this team. We're getting a sense of that. But can he beat the Warriors? This is the big celestial question, which I don't think he has an answer to yet.
I wouldn't say.
It's going to take a really well-rested James Harden, and that's what Chris Paul hopefully helps with. But in other news from last night, the Steelers trounced the surging Titans 40-17. Ben Roethlisberger looked close to perfect. Antonio Brown caught a football with one hand in his helmet.
He's great.
And the Pittsburgh defense demolished Marcus Mariota, who got intercepted 4 times. So the Steelers are now 8-2, Tony. So are they officially in the Patriots class?
So the Steelers have won 5 in a row, and the Patriots have won 5 in a row. And the Steelers are 8-2, and the Patriots are 7-2. So maybe the question is, have the Steelers surpassed the Patriots at this point? You know, Ben Roethlisberger last night had a Brady night. He had 4 touchdown passes. He had no interceptions. But he's got a couple of things that Brady actually doesn't have. He's got the best wide receiver of those two teams in Antonio Brown. He's got the best running back, Le'Veon Bell, of those two teams. So, and I think you can look at the Steelers now, whereas in the NFC, there's like 70 teams that are running around in a maze to see what happens. In the AFC, there's really, at this point, the Steelers, the Patriots, and the Chiefs. And the Steelers are right there. They're right there.
I think coming into this conversation, I wanted to say, pump the brakes. They beat the Titans. The Titans won 4 in a row, but they beat teams that were combined like 10-27.
You can say that.
And I just said that, so I guess I did. But the Steelers' offense should not be taken for granted here, because the Steelers going into this game were one of 5 teams that, despite all of those facts you just said, despite the $92 million they sunk in on offense, they hadn't cracked 30 points before last night. So when you look at the Steelers and the Patriots, obviously the Steelers have this defensive advantage. But the Pittsburgh offense now seemingly having awoken is a big deal.
I mean, if you ask me who would win that game, I would always tell you the Patriots would win that game.
Because they're the Patriots.
Because Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. And that's how it works. But in terms of defense, the Patriots have allowed 21.7 points a game. The Steelers only 16.5. And the Steelers have a more explosive offense because they got those guys at running back and wide receiver. They seem to be one of those teams that in the NBA we associate with Cleveland, that they play down to competition sometimes, but they're good.
And here's, by the way, 5 remaining opponents for the Steelers. Packers with no Rodgers, Bengals, Ravens, Texans, no Watson, Browns, and then the Patriots. So they control their own destiny.
They get the Patriots in the last game? That's good. You know what? That's a game we all want to see. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver, living and breathing, and head of the Players Association, Michelle Roberts, were right here in Washington, D.C. yesterday, meeting with the newly formed Commission on College Basketball. On their agenda was some casual talk about the one-and-done rule. Silver has reportedly grown disenchanted with that rule. Pablo, is it time for the NBA to dump the one-and-done?
It is so past time, and it is fundamentally unfair for a reason I think people may not understand, because there are 2 key groups that love this rule. One is NBA owners, because they don't trust themselves. They don't like putting millions of dollars and spending these all-important first-round lottery picks on teenagers who they don't think they've had enough sample to evaluate. But the second group, which I think is really interesting, is the NBA union itself. There are a lot of guys, especially in that middle class of NBA players currently, who see these high schoolers and say, why are we going to invite them to take a share of our salary dollars?
And
why would we do that?
Kick players out of the league.
Yes.
Kick veterans out of the league.
Yes, it's a zero-sum game. And so it's not just the villains we're used to. It's also the NBA players themselves.
It's anti-American. Okay?
It is.
It's an anti-American rule. If you feel that you're ready to go, and you understand the penalties involved, that you're ineligible for college, or you can't do this, you can't do that, and you say, I'm ready to go anyway, then you can go. This is not like operating on a body. You don't have to go to medical school to get a degree to get into the NBA. You don't have to do that. If you want to have a rule similar to baseball, where if you don't go before going to college, you have to spend 3 years in college, that's fine. I think that would be good for all people concerned. But it's unfair. It's unfair to say to a high school kid, you can't play. You just can't play. We have a rule against you. It's unfair.
Yeah, and if you say to 18-year-olds, you can go fight in Afghanistan, but you can't go play in Staples Center, that doesn't make much sense.
No.
Especially when all these smart people and all these researchers are saying development of talent in the NBA is better for these prospects than it would be in college. That's what Ben Simmons said last week.
There's also the hypocrisy of this, that you're saying to a kid, you have to park yourself in college for 1 year, but you don't even really have to go to class.
No.
You don't have to. You can take some incompletes here and there. All you have to do is stay eligible. You don't have to be a college student, but you have to stay in college. It's tremendous hypocrisy. Let's take a break. But coming up, what are the chances that Michigan pulls off the upset at Wisconsin and throws everything into chaos?
And is it only a matter of time before the Lakers...
Welcome back to Pardon the Interruption, presented by Sky Vodka, part of Happy Hour.
Don, welcome back to the PTI Psychic Hotline. I am Kornheiser Magnificent. This is my apprentice, Pablo, the mildly charismatic. Let me get the first call.
Hi, Pablo and Tony. Can you see this being Case Keenum's last start for the Vikings?
No. Even if he stinks the joint out against the Rams on Sunday, what have we learned so far about Vikings quarterbacks? That they get hurt. Sam Bradford is a human tube of Ben Gay. He disappeared after the first game. I mean, he's gone. Teddy Bridgewater, who everyone is clamoring for how good he is, Teddy Bridgewater has missed the last season and a half. Even if he becomes a starter, he will get hurt again. So Keenum will be back. And by the way, I think Keenum against the Rams will do fine.
Yeah, I did not foresee Case Keenum and Jared Goff sitting atop their respective divisions. But I also didn't foresee Case Keenum being pretty to very good. He's won 5 in a row, 5-2 as the starter, offense ranking 12th in the league. The guy has the 3rd best QBR in the NFL.
Why do you want to dump him? Why do you want to dump him?
I don't want to dump him. I'm just saying that I worry that his carriage will turn back into a pumpkin sometime soon.
Perhaps. But you will be able to ride in it. What's next?
Hey, guys. Do you see Coach Walton changing his mind and moving Lonzo to the bench?
No. It doesn't work this way. Even if Luke Walton wants to bench Lonzo Ball, even if he does, he's got to get permission from Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson drafted Lonzo number 2 overall and declared, I see me in him. And he's the next Magic Johnson. Now, Magic Johnson ever get benched? No, he didn't get benched. He is not benching. It's just not going to work that way. Lonzo Ball will have to play his way out of this or into Bustville, but he's not getting benched.
That is a really convincing theory, I will admit. But I also think starting is kind of a red herring in the NBA. Because Andre Iguodala and James Harden on the Thunder and Manu Ginobili all taught us.
But he's already not playing in the fourth quarter.
Well, that's the thing. Finishing a game is so much more important. Worry about the fact that he's sitting when it really matters as opposed to the nice ceremonial distinction of starting.
Funny-looking jump shot, but do we know that he cut his hair? Do we think that he cut his hair?
Reports say yes.
Let's see what happens with that. Next.
Hey, Tony and Pablo. I'm wondering if you guys see Michigan upsetting Wisconsin so we can finally stop talking about the Badgers.
I would so love to see this happen, because this would just stop the nonsense from Wilbon about how a Big Ten team has to be in the playoffs, which doesn't, it
very
isn't
Wilbon of him to
necessarily the
say.
case. In this particular case, though, the game is in Wisconsin. Michigan lost its starting quarterback weeks back. I think they're down to the number 3 quarterback. I don't see Wisconsin losing this game. Now, the future is a little more cloudy in terms of a neutral site situation in the Big Ten championship, but I think they win this.
I think they win this, and I think it gets complicated for this committee. Because the committee does pretty well when all the answers are kind of obvious. Yeah, Wisconsin's out of the top 4 right now. But to Wilbon's point about the political pressure behind the scenes, remember in 2014, TCU was number 3, went out and beat their opponent 55-3, and then Ohio State somehow jumped them, and no one from the Big 12 made it.
The problem facing Wisconsin is they have no opportunity to ever beat a team with fewer than 2 losses. They just don't have the opportunity. Next.
Scheduled hard.
Hey, Tony and Pablo, do you see this trip to Europe curing Andrew Luck's shoulder problems?
I think that Andrew Luck will be helped more psychologically than physically by going to Europe. I think the greater question here with Andrew Luck is, will he ever play for the Indianapolis Colts again? Because he clearly has no faith whatsoever in their medical staff.
No.
And the owner of that team has already said that this is a problem in Andrew Luck's head and it has nothing to do with his body. He has no particular support there, and he is a large enough person in the NFL that he can say, you know what? Find another boy. I'm out of here.
The idea of going to Europe has always inspired me to joke about how they're putting vampire blood in a centrifuge and injecting it into Kobe Bryant's knee and all that.
Well, they are doing that.
And they are, but it's actually kind of quaint now because Joel Embiid of the Sixers went to Qatar for foot rehab. Europe was once adventurous and foreign. Turns out America's just behind the game in a bigger way than you realize.
Can't anybody go to Lackawanna, New York anymore and get good medical care?
Lackawanna economy is suffering.
The phone lines are closed. Let's take one last break. But in our future, I see us talking about the Cowboys' chances of beating the Eagles.
And will tomorrow night's Warriors-Sixers game be an even bigger deal than last night's Warriors?
Coach and Syracuse grad is now the oldest D1 men's basketball coach in the country and still one of the very best. Boeheim has 1 national championship and 4 other trips to the Final Four, including most recently in 2016. Only Mike Krzyzewski has more wins than Boeheim.
And he is your friend.
He is.
Right? You talk about Carmelo Anthony ever?
No. He probably knows my position. It's at odds with his position. Happy anniversary, Mike Trout. On this day last year, you won your 2nd AL MVP award. Trout was out nearly 50 games this season with injury, and Jose Altuve won the AL MVP award this season in a runaway, which was completely deserved. Giancarlo Stanton won the National League, beating out Joey Votto by 2 points. Curiously, neither Stanton nor Votto played on a winning team, and Stanton's team is at the moment trying to unload him. Mike Trout, smart people say, is the greatest baseball player of all time, and we would not recognize him on a street corner, is what the story goes. True. A melancholy happy trails to Dr. Ferdy Pacheco. The fight doctor, as he was called, died yesterday at age 89. In the latter stages of his career, Pacheco did boxing commentary on television, but he was most known for being in the inner circle of Muhammad Ali, along with Angelo Dundee, Bundini Brown, and photographer Howard Bingham, and they are all gone now. I actually talked to Ferdy Pacheco on the phone when I was at Sports Illustrated, and it was this representative of this deeply cinematic world, where all of these people were raconteurs and artists and wordsmiths, and I will never forget how good he was, to me at the very least. Yeah. I had him on radio. He's wonderful. Incredible. One error, I referred to you as Pablo, when everyone knows it's Pablo. Let's go to the big finish. Eagles and Cowboys Sunday night. Should Jerry be optimistic? He should be angry, and I will enjoy watching him grow in anger. And Danica Patrick will retire after racing in the Daytona 500 and Indy 500 next season. Be surprised. A little bit. I know she's never won in the United States, but she's only 35, and people like her. Warriors at 76ers on Saturday. Are you interested in
I am
that?
so interested in this. Joel Embiid, to me, is the most charismatic and enjoyable player in sports right now.
Wow.
Dale Jr.'s final race is this weekend. Is that a big deal?
I think it is a big deal. He is by far the most popular NASCAR driver.
Yeah.
I think there's a vacuum created when he leaves. I don't know who steps up.
That whole family, right?
He's it. Last one. Steven Tyler of Aerosmith tells TMZ there's no way Ric Flair slept with 10,000 people. Are you with Tyler or Flair?
In a word,
Woo! We're out of time. We'll try and do better the next time, and I'm Tony Kornheiser.
and I'm Pablo Torre. Wilbon is back on Monday, but you can get the PTI podcast on the ESPN app or Apple Podcasts.
Pablo.